So last night I finished this engine off by bringing it in the shop and blowing it down and getting all the sand off it. I know it's a bit of a strange way of doing things, but it's easier to do it like this than do it in each individual part, because I want to paint the block. So what I've done is, like I say, I brought it in, I left it overnight to dry, and then I blew it again. Why? Well, as you can see, when I took the plug out of the for the coolant, now it's leaking. Well, it's not too bad, but what happens after you've steam cleaned, you always get, and then sandblast, you always get little pockets of sand that sticks to the water. So it's nice and dry. I've blown it off again. Now this time I'm going to sort of wash it off with an acetone wash, just to make sure that there's sort of no greases, and whilst it, well, there'll be a little bit of grease, but any residual sand, because when you sandblast, there's a very, very fine mist of sand everywhere. In fact, I tell you what, take this out, just notice some here. If you look carefully here on the top of the distributor, you can see, so you don't want that getting into your engine, and as you can see, it's come up pretty well. But the acetone will evaporate and take any oils off, and then we'll spin it over and get the rest of this water out. But that's the first stage. So I've got my trolley here, and I'm going to start to take some bits off. Now I'll put this back on the stand. I did have a bit of a problem trying to decide what colour paint. I'm going to go sort of for an original greeny blue paint. It's more green than blue. And I did find that Detroit diesel green seems to be recommended by a lot of people over here to paint the blocks with. It looks nice. But yeah, I was very impressed with that stand. It's worked out very nice. Like I say, I think a modification is required for the future, because obviously it's a little bit too small. So I think I might just add an extension piece to here and lift it up, you know, so that the rocker box is about here. Oh, wait a minute, can't think any camera's falling over. So the rocker box is about here, you know, and that makes it a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, so let's get that washed off, and then we'll start to take bits off. Now I did drain off the oil overnight, so we shouldn't have a problem there. And then we can sort of think about getting an order in for parts, because as I mentioned in the previous video, I am not going to rebuild this completely. It was running great, the oil pressure was great, the oil pressure light never came on when it was hot, which is a pretty good sign. All the cylinders were nice and even, no problems there. And again, it's only done 1,000 miles since I last had the head off when I replaced the exhaust valve. So, and when I looked inside, it looked fine. So sometimes there's no real need, unless there's an underlying problem, like I took it out because the oil seal was leaking at the back. There's no point making work for yourself. Some of these old engines, you don't know if, I don't know if this has been a replacement engine before. I know it's been out, you know, I know it's been out before, because they missed the little spacer that goes on the right hand side engine mounting. So it's been out, but why? Well, we don't know. Anyway, less of this rambling, let's get on and wash it off, and you can see now, well, wait a minute, whilst I've been rambling here, you can see how the acetone's all dried off. It's not too bad. Hey, I'll tell you something while I'm here. I'm glad that, even though it was a shitty cold day yesterday, today it's snowing and there's about 4 or 5 inches of snow. So it was a good call to do it yesterday. Even though it's like 0 today, it's not as cold, but it's snowing. And if you've been sandblasting outside and it gets wet, it'll all go rusty again. So that's the last thing you want, and that's why we brought it in the warm shop last night. I said I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to take the head off, but I did. Oh no, I'm so far into this now, but I ain't going to take the pistons out of the crank. But I thought to myself, what on earth Is it like really inside after all these years? Well, anyway, I've got it upside down. I've just taken the sump off, and it's lovely and clean inside. It's really nice. The side covers, when I turn it round again, I'll show you. But the side covers are a bit gungy. So I thought I'll take the head off and have a look at the valves and see if they're seating properly. Because remember, I put new valves in quite a long time ago, 17 years ago. They seem to be okay. But one interesting thing I noticed when I was spinning this round, because now it's got no compression or anything, is that you remember it had a little bit of a knock, a little tap. I think it's a timing chain, because if I turn that in the direction, you can't see. I'll tell you what, let me take the front cover off. Let me take this off, get the front cover off, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It might be something to do with the tensioner. I'm not going to do a full how you take this to bits, because if you've taken a series engine to bits, you've taken them all to bits. There's nothing really to know. Putting it back together again is a different tale. However, this is what I was talking to you about in the last thing. There's a timing chain here. How loose it is. But you see, when you turn it in the direction of rotation, which would be, let's put the nut in because that will give us a clear wash. So it goes that way. See? But look, when it, imagine that's running around there. You see what I mean? That's its problem. Now, it seems to me it must be something to do with the tensioner, because the chain seems pretty good. Cool. Precision fit. Yeah, you can see that the tensioner there is banging away. I'm just wondering if it's got to its limits. Because I had an idea that these chains were supposed to, they're like on a ratchet. Seems so fun. On the series it was like there was oil pressure that fed it and locked it, but this doesn't seem to lock. I don't know why. You can see how it's gummy and oily inside. It's gummy. So I think just to wash out with some petrol, we'll get that nice and clean again. But this is a mystery. And that could account for that ticking. So it looks like we're going to have to take that apart. Oh jeez, you've got to be out left with it, isn't it? Mind you, I've got to find out what's wrong with this to ward apart, so I might as well get on with it. Just a quick one. I'm cleaning up all the bits and pieces off this. This is an intake manifold. It's pretty good condition, apart from it being a bit grubby. I went over it with a sandblaster over the top, with a big sandblaster. So now I'm going to sort of clean it up properly. First of all, I'm going to put it through the small sandblaster, and then I'm going to put it through the vapour running machine. So there we are, that's after the light sandblaster, you know, it's a very fine sand. I like to do them like this because you can see the texture comes out a little bit better at the end. So now we're going to put it through the vapor blaster, the wet bead blaster, and now see what it comes out like. So there's the intake manifold now, all cleaned up, ready to fit. You can see how the linkages here is all cleaned up like new. Look at that. You'd never sort of get that detail by doing it by hand without stripping it all down. The key to it is, when we've got this blasted and clean off as much water as we can with an airline, fortunately in winter I've made a little grill that goes on top of my chimney, well, when it comes out of the stove, and I lay them on there and it gets really nice and hot and dry. And then when you want to blow the glass beads out of any ports or anything like this, or anything in the linkages, it comes out really nice.